All right, welcome back to another Harmonious at Lunch. I am here with a special guest today, Brandon, again, your host, and I want to welcome you into another Harmonious at Lunch. Typically, we talk about the harmonious business architecture, the 10 disciplines in business that you need to master in order for your business to thrive and grow to the next level and succeed. Today's going to be a little bit different. We're still going to talk about business. We have a unique guest, but we're also going to talk about a topic that I don't know, maybe a little taboo in the workplace, definitely underspoken about, and we're going to bring that to light today. So, Michelle, I want to welcome you to Harmonious at Lunch. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Brandon. I certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive in here. So, give me a little bit about your background and then ultimately what brought you into working for yourself.
Sure. Well, my name is Michelle Steiner. I am a disability writer, photographer, and paraeducator on the side, but I also work as a paraeducator in a school. And part of what brought me into my job that I do for a blog and photographer is I have always had a passion for writing ever since I was young. And I took the advice of a friend to talk about writing. And I had some disability articles published about some of my issues with having my own learning disability. And I was offered a scholarship about 4 years ago when COVID happened for an agency that gave away scholarships for artists that had disabilities and to be able to create however they create art and for their supplies. And I decided, well, why don't I start a blog with this? And I started a blog called Michelle's Mission, and it started out just as a blog where I talked about my life with having a learning disability and posted a few of my pictures that I take on my walks because I'm unable to drive. And I enjoy doing that. I had a lot of great feedback from that. I definitely liked that. And this summer, I decided whenever I was going to renew that I wasn't going to go with the company I was before. I used a different one because I wanted to create a little store that I was able to be able to have my artwork for sale. And I also created a disability forum where people with disabilities can connect as well.
That's awesome. So I want to ask about all of that. It's an amazing story, but I'm curious if we go all the way back. What was the beginning of life with a disability? How soon in your life did you know you had this, or were you diagnosed?
I was diagnosed with a disability very early in my life. I was diagnosed in kindergarten. My kindergarten teacher noticed that I was struggling academically and socially, especially in math. That was always our biggest thing. It was really clear I wasn't going to be a mathematician whenever I was 5 years old. And that's when I got diagnosed. And from that point on, it became just a way of life for me. I don't remember very much of my life before that. And I had accommodations and I had specialty instruction all the way throughout high school. And I also had a lot of people that tried to limit me. I had a teacher that told me that they didn't think I could go to college. So school was a real struggle for me in both ways. But I didn't listen to them. I decided that I was going to go on to college, and I had support. I found a wonderful agency called Office for Vocational Rehabilitation, and they paid for my testing. And all throughout my college, I was able to graduate debt-free. And I can just remember, though, even there was a lot of limitations and stigma with that. Whenever I had to get in order to get the accommodations, I had to get tested for a learning disability again. And the psychiatrist that tested me told me I wouldn't go beyond a community college. And there was still that stigma that just existed that using those services was cheating and that I would have limited job choices because of that.
Wow. Yeah. And so on a couple of recent episodes, we've talked about imposter syndrome. We've talked about overcoming your fears, and really just things that are present day to day in owning and running a business. So yeah, this is a show about business, but at the end of the day, at Whadif, we talk about mind, body, and business. This is obviously very much mind and body, but it's so important. So as you're being told all these things and believing them your whole life, how how much did it take to overcome those thoughts and jump into the world of business? Because I'm sure you were told you wouldn't even go to college. Like, did it even come up? Did people tell you couldn't go into business for yourself?
A lot of people didn't think that I could do a lot of that. I mean, people did encourage me. I think whenever certain things were working out, like at jobs, they said, you might want to consider this business. And some of that sounded like a nice idea, but it just didn't seem like the right fit for me. Sure. And I can remember just a lot of times people telling me, even when I had to go back, I thought, maybe I want to go back to grad school. And I had the testing to get the accommodations. I had to get tested again. And once again, the psychiatrist, they put on there, okay, she has her bachelor's degree, but when I said that I was interested in writing news reports or photography, or there was a bunch of other things that I put down that I want to do, they said after my testing, I couldn't do that. So I don't think they had, a lot of people didn't think that I could do this or anything that involved beyond skilled or semi-skilled work.
Yeah, I honestly can't even imagine hearing that over and over and still persevering and pursuing it. So amazing for you. I've put Michelle's website here. You can go find her blog, michellesmission.net. And please go check it out, support her, look at all the amazing things she's doing. But let's bring it back a little bit to business. So tell me some of the getting started in this and doing the day-to-day work of business. What are some of the roadblocks that you experienced, maybe because of your disability, but maybe just in general too?
Well, some of the roadblocks were just technical things. I mean, I had to learn a lot on how to design a website. I didn't go to school to learn that. And even when I was in school, computers were still not as much as it is now. So definitely some of that, having to play around a lot with, okay, how do we do this? That could be really difficult. My husband is great, though. He works for a call center for internet, and he's wonderful. But sometimes he has his limits on, like, I got to get, because he's working himself. So there's a lot of times I have to figure out, how do I do this? And then we have to figure that out. So technical problems are something that can be really hard. I think also sometimes time too, because I do work at another job in the school. So it can be really difficult sometimes just to have that time because I'm in my other job. But that's why I love summers and the school break. It's always nice to be able to have that. So those are just a few of those challenges that I've run across.
Yeah, challenges are always present. It's how we handle them, right? And it's good to see that you have a good attitude about it too, and you just consistently move forward, which is the theme of your life, it seems like, so far, which I love. So let's kind of transition over to, what disabilities in the workplace. And I think this is something. This is the part that I don't know that people talk about enough. Big corporations have it covered for sure. Unfortunately, it's because they're legally required to. How do we bring this present into the world of small business and entrepreneurship so that more small business owners are comfortable? Because I think there's maybe a feeling of even fear to hire someone with disability. So what's the start of this conversation look like?
Well, I think the start of the conversation is when the employee with a disability or potential employee is honest that they might have a disability and they're going to need an accommodation. I think that's where we start at. And I think it's when we even look for maybe people that do have disabilities, because a lot of times people might be afraid, I'm going to have this person with a disability and they're going to be this liability, or they're not going to want to work, or it's going to be really expensive. And a lot of solutions don't require a lot of money. They certainly, everyone with a disability is different, but most people with disabilities want to work. It's trying to find employers that are willing to work with that. I know for me, it took a while to find a job. Even the ones that said they were disability friendly, oftentimes weren't that way. So it took me a while to find a good fit. And it also took me a while to be able to ask for accommodations in a way that I was able to get the results I wanted. Because I think when you first start out, learning to ask for accommodations is a skill. And you want to go in and you want to be professional, but you also, and be nice, but you also need to go in getting the results and maintaining a working relationship. I think that's the big thing. I know whenever I ask for accommodations, I'm pretty honest. I will go up to the principal or the supervisor I'm working with, and I'll just explain the situation that I have a learning disability. Please do not give me math. And yeah, or please do not, this is what I can do. And for the most part, people are understanding about that. They understand the kids are slowly learning this year. Do not ask Mrs. Steiner for help with math. I can't do that, but I can help out in other areas. And I think it's when you're able to just go in calmly, get a quiet time to talk about it. That's also helpful too. I always find it's better to be honest, because a lot of times people can't see my disability. And that does give me a privilege when I walk through for an interview or I walk into a room with a job. But if I don't speak up and say that I have a math disability, and they put me with the student, and the expectation is I'm going to help them with their math, I'm not going to be able to perform to that standard. So I think it's just very important to be open and honest about what you can and what you're not able to do. And I also think it's important to get things in writing. I can remember when I was asking for accommodations at a new position, I made sure that I put things in an email to my boss. So that way it's in writing what I need.
Yeah, that's a great tip. And obviously the focus of today's conversation is not necessarily around business and the harmonious architecture, but let's bring this to light and state the obvious here. One of the areas that we talk about, the R in Harmonious, is risk and defense. We talk about legal protection, and that goes both ways. It's for the employer and for the employee. And in your case, what you're saying is absolutely correct, is put things in writing, asking for those accommodations, making sure your insurance policies are up to date and cover whatever the environment is. That's really the area of the architecture that we're talking about today. Now, I want to also ask you, because I think you hit on a number of things, and this is just a short talk. We don't have the time to completely dive into it. But you said something that I want to just bring to light and put away as soon as I talk about it. And you said disabilities are liabilities. That's how people tend to think about them.
Yes.
And I know you know this. That's a terrible mindset to have. We can't be thinking that way as employers. But I want to ask, what are some of the things, because you say accommodations, and as an employer, that word could scare me because I don't know what that could mean. So many things, right? That could mean like building all new wheelchair accessible elevators in my building. That's a big word, right? So give me an example of what some like normal accommodations would be that maybe are not so scary, and we can de-escalate that word a little.
Sure. I think it's what the person might need. I work for an office where I couldn't put holes in the documents. So they had an automatic hole puncher. That was one of the ways, because with my visual perception, I couldn't do it. But we have a copier at work that I don't need that, because you can do it on there. That's one way they can do it. Somebody that might have an illness, they might cancer or something along those lines, they might need to have a schedule that's flexible. So if they're not feeling well, they can either work from home, or when they do go back to the office, it's a workload that's manageable, and it builds in those days that they can take off for appointments or whatever they need. Some of the other things could involve, just like with job duties, maybe somebody can't do math, but you can help out like with reading. We also have people that I work with that might be on crutches or walkers, or come in with a cane, and we just provide for them what they need too with their job duties. And just saying, I may not be able to push this cart, or I can't maybe do this position, but we have a lot of different positions for people that have them.
Yeah, that's to me encouraging to hear, because those were not scary things. All of the things you just said, those are very manageable. And it's good to be able to visualize what this could look like. And I know for me personally, I have hired a number of people with disabilities, all the way from Down syndrome to just some health complications, like you said, where they needed just some flexible time. And I've been blessed to know these people over the years. And you said this before we started the recording, and that is people with disabilities often want to work really badly. And I can tell you from experience, often they want to work more than people who don't have disabilities. So it is absolutely a blessing to have people that want to work in your business. And we should be making all the accommodations we can for everybody. I mean, workplaces should be comfortable. That's the other area of the architecture that I didn't bring up yet, is home. Humans optimize in a meaningful environment, typically called HR. It all falls under this category. We need to be thinking about the people that we're hiring and making their lives at work meaningful so they want to show up and work. And I think that's really the heart of what we're talking about here today. So, Michelle, I want to thank you for coming on. Before we wrap up, give me a little bit. I'll put your website back on the screen. What are you working on these days that you're really excited about that you'd love to share with people?
One of the things that I'm working on right now is I just got an article published on Public Source about my experience over the summer traveling solo on an airplane to a Down syndrome convention, and I used the Hidden Sunflower program. And I also have an art show this evening. We all are artists, and it features artists that have disabilities.
That's incredible. Well, I want to thank you again for showing up. If you're a little bit confused about all of the funny words that I said during this episode, harmonious, home, rad, go take the bad. It's our assessment. We're going to diagnose where your business is, where you need clarity. Are you covered in legal? Do you have a good, solid foundation in risk and defense? Do you need to optimize your employees, your home? Humans optimize in a meaningful environment. We want to let you know where your business is and what your business is trying to tell you. So whadif.com, go take the bad. That is a wrap on another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. I hope you got as much as I did out of this episode. And it was a pleasure to meet you, Michelle. Thank you so much for coming on. We will see you next time on Harmonious at Lunch.